Inflation went down overall in the month of July. In June, inflation was 9.1% higher than it was in June of 2021. That was a 40-year high at the time. But today, the Consumer Price Index report found inflation came down to 8.5% in July. I'm going to explain what this means for your life. I'm going to tell you about a couple of things that are cheaper in 2022 than they were in 2021. But first, I want to thank my TikTok subscribers for voting on this topic for me to cover as a bonus for you this week. If you want to vote, you can subscribe to my page during my next live event. Now, back to that 8.5% inflation in the month of July. That is still extremely high, as you can see in this graph. But July marks the first time inflation has decreased by this much since May of 2020. Now, that doesn't mean things are cheap. They are absolutely not. But today's report shows the cost of some things in July started to come down from where they were in June. Gas prices went down nearly 8%. Energy costs decreased by more than 4.5%. And plane tickets dropped nearly 8%. But several things increased. Not by a lot, but more expensive is more expensive. The cost of food overall increased more than 1% since June. That means food overall was nearly 11% more expensive in July of 2022 than it was in July of 2021. Some food items got really expensive, like eggs. In July, they were more than 4% more expensive than they were in June, and 38% more expensive than they were in July of 2021. Coffee was up 3.5% from June and more than 20% more than July of 2021. And flour was up more than 3% between June and July. That's nearly 23% more expensive than it was in July of 2021. Rent and the cost to own a home were both up. Rent was more than 6% over last year, but less than 1% more than it was last month. The owner's equivalent of rent for a residence was up nearly 6% more than 2021, but only a little more than 0.5% more than June. But it's worth noting there are a few things that were cheaper in July of 2022 than they were even in July 2021. This is a random list. Tomatoes were almost 1.5% cheaper. If you're in the market for a TV, they were more than 14.5% cheaper in July of 2022 than they were in July 2021. And smartphones, believe it or not, were 20% cheaper than last year. Now, one report does not signify a trend. It's just one report. But it is important because this report, along with the jobs report I told you about last week in this video, will be used along with next month's jobs and inflation report by the Federal Reserve when they meet at the end of September to decide whether or not to increase interest rates and by how much.